All right, we are following the breaking news out of the Middle East right now, in which the Israeli defense minister has alerted the nation to a set of what he called preemptive strikes against Iran. There have been no explosions outside of Tehran, according to the Iranian state authorities. We do not know yet where these strikes have been, how widespread they are, what facilities they're focused on. There would be, in the eyes, I think, of the Iranian government, a big difference between military strikes like those we've seen from Israel over the past 6 months in this escalating exchange of warfare with Israel and Iran, and targeting the nuclear program. Targeting the nuclear program with a strike has long been something the Israeli government has been dead set on, and often been at odds with American administrations, including the Obama administration and the Biden administration. So I want to bring in now Senator Elizabeth Warren, who is a Democrat of Massachusetts. And Senator, when we started this program 29 minutes ago, I was going to speak to you about your colleague being wrestled to the ground and handcuffed, and I will speak to you about that. But this seems to be an possibly extraordinarily major development, depending on what happens. Yes. I know you probably don't know any more details than we do, but I want to get your reaction to the idea that the Israelis just launched a preemptive strike on Iran.
Right. This is deeply disturbing. And look, I don't agree often with the Trump administration, but I think here it is important to say we need more negotiation. We need de-escalation. We need to get to a deal. This has the possibility of spinning entirely out of control. So we need to get these parties back to a negotiating table. We need the administration in there helping try to negotiate something among them. This is truly, truly a dangerous situation.
I have to say, this morning I had stupidly and foolishly expressed confidence that this strike wouldn't happen today or tomorrow, because the president's envoy, Steve Witkoff, is headed to Oman, the region, for diplomatic talks this Sunday. I mean, this strikes me as a pretty shocking thing, given that context, for our ally Israel to do, with the president's envoy headed to the region for diplomacy.
Right. Right. You could not find a way for Benjamin Netanyahu to more aggressively say to Donald Trump, to the Trump administration, but to the people of the United States of America, I just don't care about you. I don't care that you are an ally. He wants to get out there and do what he wants to do. And he's just going to do it, even, as you rightly say, even with the envoy for negotiation already in the air and coming. He didn't even call and say, send the guy back. Don't send him here because I have other plans. So this is a way not only for Netanyahu to take on Iran, it's a way for Netanyahu to say to the whole rest of the world that this is not about alliances. This is not about de-escalation. This is about Netanyahu doing what Netanyahu wants to do. And ultimately, not only does that put the entire world at risk, it certainly puts the people of Israel at risk as well.
Yeah, we should note, of course, the Israeli defense minister warning that there's an expectation of retaliation through missile and drone attacks. We saw missile and drone attacks in previous exchanges between the two nations. And another question on this, and just context, again, because we are trying to get the details, and the details really matter here in terms of the scope of this. But the context here is that there was a deal with Iran. It was negotiated. It required monitoring of their enrichment capabilities. It limited their breakout time to get a weapon. That deal was negotiated by the Obama administration. It was agreed to, and it was ripped up by the first Trump administration, which has, it seems to me, brought us to this point. Do you think that ripping up that deal was a mistake?
Oh, I think it was a terrible mistake. And I said so at the time, as did many others, that we at least had some insight into on a very regular basis what Iran was up to. We had an agreement from Iran on what it would not do by way of enrichment, and as you say, we could get we were able to see what the breakout period was, and to keep that breakout period long enough that there would be genuine warning. And when the Trump administration threw all that out the window, said, nope, don't want any part of that, we lost that capacity. We lost the inspections that Iran had agreed to. And that didn't make anybody safer. It certainly didn't make Israel safer. It didn't make the United States safer. It didn't make the world safer. It let Iran move within its own sphere and hide it from the rest of the world. And that's what's been unfolding. And I really do want to say I appreciate that the Trump administration now is trying to negotiate, but we could have been in a lot better position on this. And now we are seeing the consequences of the Trump administration burning down the original negotiations.
Senator, I'm definitely going to ask you about what happened today in California. I promise you, and I want to keep you if that's okay. But I also want to bring in my colleague, Courtney Kube, just because I want to bring us both up to speed on what's happening here. So Courtney Kube is senior NBC News correspondent covering national security in the Pentagon. Courtney, just tell us what you've been able to find out about what's happened.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We still are working through the details about exactly what happened. We know now that there were airstrikes. We are working on whether it was limited to airstrikes, though, or whether there may have been other assets that were used in this. These strikes against Iran, we don't know if they have actually concluded at this point. We know that they started more than an hour ago. There are it is a multiple strike package. So why I bring that up is because as the rumors that something was likely to unfold in the coming days were growing stronger over the last 48 hours or so, we were hearing a lot of talk about the possibility of limited strikes. It still appears that is the case, but definitely multiple. The targets, we're still working on the details of that as well, but it is officials telling us that it's the kind of targets that we would expect. So that leads us to believe there may have been something that would in some way either disable or delay Iran's nuclear facilities or nuclear program. That is what Israel has been, their goal has been militarily with Iran for as long as I can remember. We do have confirmation from multiple U.S. officials that there was no U.S. military involvement or assistance. So why that's critical is we're talking about not U.S. military involvement when in the form of dropping bombs or anything, but no assistance means that the U.S. military also didn't do things like help them with aerial refueling or even provide intelligence that may have helped. Now, the U.S. and Israel has a strong intelligence sharing program that goes back decades. So it is possible that in that program, there was some kind of information that was shared that in some way aided this. But as far as this exact operation or exact mission, the officials telling us that, in fact, the U.S. did not aid in that capacity. You mentioned this comes, of course, as the United States and Iran seem to be getting closer to some sort of a preliminary framework about a nuclear deal. Well, obviously, that is something that Israel has been against. They do not like the idea of a deal between the United States and Iran on their nuclear enrichment program. But it's not just that. Another key timeline that we should keep in mind right now is back in October, Israel took a series of very successful strikes in Iran. They largely disabled their strategic air defenses throughout the country. What that means is their S-300s and their coordinated air defense systems, they took out the radars, basically every one of their air defense systems, strategic air defenses, so the longer range ones, were disabled. Well, Iran can rebuild those, and it takes a matter of months. There's a very real possibility the Israelis were looking at this and saying, look, our window for being able to more safely conduct manned strikes, fly over Iran without our pilots having exponentially more danger in the mission, that window is closing. And that may have also factored in here.
Last question, and then I'm going to let you go, Courtney, so you can go back to reporting this out. But just to be clear on this, when you say, you know, there has been the threat of strikes on the nuclear facilities for a long time. I mean, you know, literally over a decade. It's something that's been contemplated and warned. I've covered it for, again, over a decade. When you say like you would have expected, my understanding from what I hear from you is there is we don't have a confirmed, but an expectation or anticipation that this might be what that is.
Yeah,
like actually targeted at the nuclear facilities and program.
Yes, and it's an excellent point. But here's the one caution I would have about the possibility that Israel was really taking a massive series of strikes that would in some way dismantle or disable or even destroy Iran's nuclear facilities. Okay, that would be if it's Israel by themselves. Okay, no other military participation, and specifically the U.S. military participation. That is most likely going to be a multi-day, possibly even a multi-week operation for them to do that. The Israeli nuclear facility, the Iranian nuclear facilities are buried deep underground. It would take things like a massive ordnance penetrator, a bunker buster, right, to go through to take it out. That's not something that the Israelis could do quickly. What they could do is, and what they have proven they can do back in October, is show Iran that, yeah, you know, we can take strikes right around your nuclear facilities. We will hold them at risk. We can do things like take out your air defenses. You know, so what's still not clear is, was this more than hey, we're showing you we can still do this amidst these negotiations with the United States? Or was this an attempt to further set the program back? But as far as actually a mission to completely destroy their nuclear facilities, it doesn't appear that's what this is here tonight.
All right, Courtney Kube, that was incredibly useful. And thank you for doing your reporting. I will let you get back to it right now. And